Hello, everybody. Welcome to yet another episode of the Out for Smokes podcast. I'm Mike Recine, once again joined by Sean McCarthy and Scott Chaplain. How are you guys?
Sublime.
Yeah?
Just 30 days of watching children get blown apart.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, a month yesterday, right?
Yeah, we just passed the 30-day mark.
Yeah. Are there any images that sort of stick out in your head, or any that you feel like you won't forget?
I just keep seeing
Anything?
like different videos of different parents holding their dead kids.
Yeah.
And being like, oh yeah, this is what my tax dollars are paying for.
Yeah.
This is what I'm funding when I pay sales tax on my alcohol.
I keep saving videos, meaning to come back to them, and then because they're just it's almost like too much. But I did see one video where a guy was filming another guy, and the guy's digging through rubble, and the guy goes, "What are you looking for?" And the guy digging goes, "My 4 children." He's like, "I'm looking for my 4 children."
I saw
in
it
the rubble
today.
But you got to also remember, fat, overweight white women are upset. Actually, they've been real quiet.
What, the Would You Hide Me stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah,
all
that
the
should drop since we talked about it last week. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They've dipped.
Yeah. I also want to talk about, just to start off, I went to a protest last night. I guess Finkelstein organized.
Yeah, I
protest.
texted you guys about going to that, and I never heard. I didn't know you were going to be there.
Oh, I didn't go.
Yeah. I had a show, so I was like, I'll just pop over after the show because they said we were going to end it at Schumer's house. But I saw them marching up Flatbush, and then I started marching with them, and I did get recognized a couple times. That was cool.
But people there,
Yeah,
they were like,
"Oh, Mike Recine." And then
Did you walk up to Norman after?
no, I didn't get to, because other people were like talking to him and everything.
Sure.
it was like a big crowd, right? Or
it was pretty big. It was probably about 100 people.
yeah, that's
Yeah, I heard.
Mike can't get that into the Chuckle Hut, but Norman Finkelstein can get that at 11 p.m. in Brooklyn on the walking over the bridge.
Yes, everybody, please prove Sean wrong when you come to Teehee's on December 16th in Des Moines, Iowa. I'll be there, and then I'll also be at the.
It's called Teehees?
Yeah,
They're like really trying to figure out different
The
laugh noises. They
Yeah.
go, people tee-hee when they laugh. They go,
Yeah.
yeah, let it be tee-hee.
yeah,
I think levity is a good name for a comedy because levity is like
yeah.
it's like a fancy word for what laughter does. You know? It creates like levity. You go, wow, good job, levity.
Sure.
Everywhere
Please
else
come to
is like-
spray my shorts with a little bit of diarrhea comedy.
Yeah, dude.
But I did.
There should be sadistic cackles.
Yeah,
They should
Yeah,
have like
that.
a comedy club for serial killers.
yeah. They should make a comedy club called Drunk White Woman Comedy Club.
Bachelorette parties.
Bachelorette party, yeah, the Bachelorette house. But anyway, yeah. But I did get recognized. Some people were like, "Oh, is Sean here?"
Yeah.
And I said, well, "No, Sean is a fake activist."
I didn't know you were going to be there.
Yeah. I just, it was like an afterthought because I was, I had this show.
Mm-hmm.
But
How far is Schumer's from here?
It's a few stops away, I think.
shit.
But it wasn't like we didn't. They said his house was a certain address on the flyer, but
Yeah.
That wasn't where we ended up. So I don't know if we were outside his house or not. I hope that we were, but we were outside
We
like a
definitely
big.
said "fuck you" to somebody.
Yeah,
you woke
yeah.
somebody up.
Baby killer. It's just like some guy who works at Citigroup.
yeah. He just thought it was the voice inside his head.
Murdering. Apartheid.
Yeah.
No more bombs.
But it was cool. Norm was there. They started it at like 13th and 9th or something, or like no, Avenue C and 9th
Yeah,
Street.
he did a
So they,
speaking
like,
event
walked-
at Avenue. At like a bookstore at Avenue C.
Yeah, I watched the live stream of that.
Yeah, I saw
you
that
did?
too. Yeah.
How was his speech?
Well, that was the Q&A, but it might as well be a speech.
Yeah.
Because he asks you ask him one question, and then it's like 45
Yeah,
minutes.
he goes,
Right,
if you
right.
don't mind for a moment.
Right.
We have to go back to Reconstruction.
Yeah.
We have to go back to Nate Turner before we can start talking about 1948.
Well, that's why, because Scott asked him about bagels, and we were on that for like 10 minutes. if you remember. But anyway, so we got to Schumer's house, and then we were like, I think we were like, we're gonna sing. So we sang. So you're really loud. It's okay. But
the Mike yells at his wife and child podcast.
But that's kind of the part of activism that's a little bit cheesy,
Singing.
Yeah. I don't really, it's like it's kind of going to protest. I think it's good. It's necessary, but it is like a little bit cringe.
Well, you remember like during Black Lives Matter, people would show up, they would start singing Les Mis songs because Les Mis does have great protest songs.
It does.
Yeah, like in the context of Les Mis, it's powerful and amazing. Can you hear the people singing? That's amazing.
Yeah.
When you're marching for current issues, you don't want to be a musical theater kid.
You don't want to be
you want to shake the neighborhood. You don't want to
right. What you want to do is drag Chuck Schumer out of his bed,
beat him with baseball bats.
What you want to do is what all the January 6ers said they were going to do. That's what you're actually thinking about.
Yeah.
But we were just out there. It was like I hope we woke him up.
What you want to do is what that strange man did to Nancy Pelosi's husband, suck his dick while she was away for the weekend, and then get caught. So you have to fake it as if it's an assault incident. When your fucking bitch wife is out of town and you want to fucking do drugs and have gay sex with your boy.
Just hold this hammer while I suck your dick in case anybody comes in.
Right.
And then the fucking media has to show up and ruin it, so you need a cover story.
We're not saying we're going to do that because we have lives and families and a Patreon. But if any of you guys want to go, I'll send you Schumer's address. But yeah, so we're standing there and we're like singing, and I'm like,
do you remember the song?
They were singing "No Vaseline" by Ice Cube. You let a Jew break up my crew. How's then we gotta run in?
Does he say that in the thing?
Yeah. No Vaseline has like some anti-Semitic lyrics.
If you go really deep into Ice Cube, there's a lot of anti-Semitism.
Yeah.
If you just go on Spotify and just hit a play on an Ice Cube song and let it keep playing, you'll hear some record companies trying to fuck me.
Yeah, it was a big part of well, not a big part, but there's a fair bit of that in early 90s hip hop.
Yeah.
Especially like the political Islam stuff a lot of the rappers were into.
Okay. Nice.
Because they get into Farrakhan, and then Farrakhan's like, now, let me tell you something about a specific type of white people. You're used to hating all white people, but let me tell you, there's a specific type that you should really hate. The ones who owned 80% of the slave boats or whatever the made-up statistic is.
Is that what
that was
says?
A stat that slave boats were Jewish?
You see this in neo-Nazi groups, but also Nation of Islam. They talk about the majority of slave owners in the U.S. being Jewish.
Which is not true.
No. I mean...
my brain says Jewish people weren't even there.
Let's get a Twitter community note on that.
Yeah.
When did Jewish people show up in America? They
were
13
here,
original colonies. There were like a few Jews hanging out.
There were a few Jews, yes.
Oh, shit, hell yeah. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
But anyway, so it's like there is something kind of like about activism where obviously Norman's like a very brilliant guy, but there was something about like that we're all out here in front of Chuck Schumer's house like singing. I'm like, hey, this movement needs a little like juice, Like it needs a little like fun and
dude.
You know what I mean?
You sound like the Joker right now.
I'm not saying it's gonna. I'm not saying I'm gonna do it. I'm just saying that I just feel like it'd be fun if there was like a Donald Trump on the left. If we could just have rallies. If somebody could like run. Like, do you think if someone ran for president on the left and just hosted a rally where they just talk shit and just talked about like whose pussy stinks and would that be
like a King's of Comedy?
Is that like
the Democratic Party?
Is that doable? Because you would have all the Warren people who would try to like sabotage it and like clutch their pearls over it.
Yeah.
But maybe it would like if you could break through to people who are cool, maybe you could also get the independents.
Yeah, you need like a trade union guy.
Mm-hmm.
That was who Lula in Brazil. He was the head of a union. He
Yeah.
became the president and all that, and he would like chain smoke and then give these rallies,
Yeah.
So that's what you kind of need is somebody who just like hasn't gone through the university system, or at least like didn't get indoctrinated there into this specific type of leftism that says fun is illegal
Mm-hmm.
and you have to be serious all the time.
Mm-hmm.
and you have to have a bunch of like weird alienating beliefs, and if you don't, you're not welcome in the club. Like that's
Right.
you know with Finkelstein, like he has views I disagree with, but like you know.
What what views do you disagree with?
Well, I mean, he was anti-BDS for whatever reason, boycott, divestment, sanctions from Israel, which is the idea that people should boycott Israel. I completely agree. You should try to do that. You know, the only things you have to do is don't buy a Soda Stream and don't buy the worst hummus that you can buy at the store.
Right.
You can buy better hummus and boycott Israel at the same time.
Yeah.
But yeah, so he's against BDS. He's in favor of the two-state solution when a lot of like left activists talk about we need a one state, we need the South Africa model. All Palestinians get voting rights. They'll have one Palestinian state, which, you know, Israel and Palestine merge together. And, you know, I think you can debate these things. I don't think there should be purity tests on the left about them. But then, like, he wrote, you know, he spent 40 years talking about Israel-Palestine. Then he writes this book about cancel culture, which is like the first... or basically the first non-Israel-Palestine book he's written in like 40 years. It was like a year ago or 2 years now he puts it out. And people got mad because he said some stuff about trans people.
Sure.
And he talks about wokeness. It was kind of funny. I was watching that stream with him. Aaron Mate is a good journalist. He was interviewing him. But
I just believe that men have a penis and women have a vagina.
But you could see he's like, I want to digress and talk about wokeness. You could see Aaron start to get nervous.
Oh, yeah. I thought if some pervert tries to follow my granddaughter into the women's bathroom, they're going to be tasting cold steel. Anti-woke Finkelstein.
But yeah, because it's like this leftist bookstore, and they're all there for Israel-Palestine.
Oh, you want to do women's swimming, you freak? Try it, I dare you.
Yeah, he does say in 2020 he gave up on the Palestinian people, right? He says in 2020 I gave up. But then when you look into it, it's just in 2020 he stopped writing books about it, and then he wrote a book about woke culture. And so it's like, I mean, he could tell us he gave up, but he just took the time to write a book about another subject, and the subject is something that is, you know, not nearly as urgent as the people of Gaza. You know?
Yeah. Yeah, it was just interesting because I'm like, we're all just standing here and we're singing. And I'm like, is this effective? Is it, you know, probably not really, but I think that's kind of the point of a lot of these things. Like, it doesn't really.
Before we talk about the ceasefire, we need to talk about these litter boxes. Students are they think they're cats, and they're taking shits in litter boxes in the classroom.
I never believed in concealed carry until right now. I'd love to just. You think you're a cat? You're going to see my Glock.
It relates to wokeness in the universities.
I guess
I find a small irony in the wokeness in the universities. These pansexuals. Listen, just because you regret it doesn't mean it's rape.
He's on. Whoa. Imagine he goes on Joe Rogan. They just talk about gender for like 3 hours. There's not a single word.
Yeah, just no guys beating up women in
no
a
mention
ring.
of Palestine.
Yeah. They're winning medals.
Oh, that's crazy because, you know, I heard that, you know, actually a transgender woman beat the shit out of my daughter this week. That's what I heard. Just nonsense.
Now everyone in this room can agree on a few things. Israel has no right to be doing what they're doing in Gaza. And men should not be fighting in women's sports. Yeah. Ben Shapiro is too soft on gender. You're a coward, Ben Shapiro. Yeah. No, I just like the idea of, you know, I mean, like, because on Israel-Palestine, you don't usually get as many hyper-wokes because there's there's a large Muslim community or Arab American community that's very invested in this issue. It's not like it's not like other kind of niche left causes, but it's sort of funny to, you know.
But most people recognize what the need of the situation.
I think so, yeah.
How drastic it is or how dire it is.
Yeah, but you do get like, I mean, there's always just people trying to cancel Finkelstein or whoever online for whatever their views, which, you know, it's like I don't always agree with, but I think it's there's just we've inculcated a particular culture in the left where it's like if you believe one bad thing, you have to be deplatformed. You can't contribute in any way. And this is a guy who spent 40 years on this issue and, being like one of the only people to actually read through these human rights reports about Israeli abuses. Like, that's another thing he talked about is like giving up on Palestine. Is he was like, yeah, I spent 40 years just reading UN human rights reports that are like 1,000 pages long and go through very minute detail about, oh, they blew apart this child at this checkpoint or, shot one through the neck or whatever.
Right.
You spend 40 years and that's like all you read is Israel-Palestine. And he's like, I finally got to read for pleasure again in this last year or two.
Yeah.
Read about Rosa Luxemburg and such.
He's like, what's going on in America? And he's like, what the fuck?
He was just frozen in amber from 1982.
He was just shocked.
Only reading about Israel-Palestine.
Joe, I'd like to talk about another atrocity. People identifying as cats.
I told you my sister told me that, right?
What?
Yeah.
That fake lie thing that happened.
Sure.
She brought it up to me like it was something that happened at her daughter's school.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to be like, that's a fake thing. And she was like, no, the kids are talking about it.
Yeah.
And she like named a student who needed the litter box.
You know what I like about the Gaza Ministry of Health? When they release the names of the dead bodies, there's only 2 genders, male or female. None of this 37 genders bullshit.
You see people are making fun of the war ads because now all the ads for like the army it's just like men.
What you mean, the U.S. Army ads?
Yeah.
That's like the right-wing talking point is they
Yeah.
say because they had more diverse ads, the U.S. military, but now it's like white men. So that's like
The implication is, we're going to war.
right.
Yeah.
The right-wingers on Twitter or whatever, they say, oh, when the U.S. military has white men in the ads, then it's like, oh, we need people to go be cannon fodder for Israel.
Right. Well, too bad there aren't any white men anymore. No one in Gen Z identifies as a white man.
It's fact, yeah.
So, yeah. But it's kind of messing me up. It's like you want to always feel like you can protect your child.
Yeah.
And I was like sitting on the couch with my kid today, and I was like, Benny, I'll always protect you, okay? And he goes, okay, but I know that's like not true.
Yeah.
Like if the government wanted to blow him apart with a bomb, they totally could.
Benny, I'll always protect you unless somebody calls me anti-Semitic for doing it.
Right. Then you're on your own.
Yeah. I got a career to worry about, buddy.
Yeah, I don't want to be.
Can't be called anti-Semitic.
Right. I don't want to be deplatformed. But yeah, it's just, and it doesn't seem like it's going to stop anytime soon, right?
No, it's crazy. And it's like, there's part of me that wants to not, like do the podcast more on the kind of things we were doing, but it just feels so weird to go back.
Yeah.
Because it's like on some level, okay, this is 30 days of this, and I'll call it a genocide. I've said that before. 30 days of it doesn't have any sign of letting up. They're killing 140 children every day.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Jesus Christ, 136 children every day. That's according to Al Jazeera. And, they put the comparable numbers for like Iraq, Ukraine, Yemen, Afghanistan, Syria for the last decade. Maybe like in Syria, 3 children a day are killed. From 2011 to 2022. 3 children every day were killed in Syria. For the last 30 days, 136 children are killed every day in Gaza. And, for Afghanistan, it's 2. For Yemen, it's 1.5. Ukraine, 0.7. Iraq, 0.6.
Doesn't it kind of feel like they're like fucking with us? Like they're like acting like a bad kid that wants to be reprimanded?
No, and it's they've killed more United Nations aid workers, whatever.
It's fine.
Yeah, they could get it.
They've killed more United Nations aid workers than at any comparable time in the entire history of the United Nations, which of course goes to post World War II. And it's like, why are they doing that? And not only that, they blow up these UN aid workers and they kill their families too.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, so as of right now, it's 92 UN aid workers killed. I mean, it's insane. And 92, according to the UN Relief and Works Agency. 92. This is more unprecedented.
They're almost acting like Amy Schumer, where they're like just being so out of line that they want somebody to be like, don't do that.
Yeah.
I think they're like craving, much like a white woman, they're craving discipline. They're craving the strong hand of somebody, you know?
Did you see that guy called you misogynistic, racist comic, Mike Recine?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
What are you doing?
Benny's hitting some sort of thing.
Yeah.
Hammering.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, but yeah. So it's like, okay, they killed 92 UN aid workers and some of their families too. And why are they doing that? They're trying to get all the remaining UN aid workers to flee Gaza, to say it's too dangerous to be here. We can't, because the UN aid workers are the only ones that's providing any food. There's UN flour there, so people in Gaza, they get like a little piece of bread from the stockpile of UN flour there, and just like this week, people in the streets have started, begging for water. Like, it's bad. It's bad. They don't have clean water. They barely have any food. And the Israelis are like, well, if we have total impunity, because the only way to hold international law accountable would be for the Security Council to do something. That's, Russia, China, U.S., France, England, United Kingdom. But, of course, the U.S. has a veto. And so the U.S. vetoes any resolution that would discipline Israel, that would say, hey, you can't kill United Nations aid workers. Like, this is the most blatant violation of international law possible. These people are just here to try to save lives and feed people, keep them healthy. And the Israelis are deliberately targeting and killing them and their families to try to get them to get the fuck out, so there's no witnesses, and also so that Palestinians will die faster. They're doing the same thing to journalists. They're doing the same thing to surgeons. Anybody who has medical knowledge in fucking Gaza is a target. They're bombing hospitals, universities. They're just trying to. I mean, it's the most evil thing I've seen in my life.
Yeah.
And I can kind of. I was a kid. I didn't really fully understand the Iraq War when that was happening.
Sure.
Like, obviously, that's very evil, but there's just something so sinister about this, and to just see,
well, it's like, so it's happening like so out in the open now.
And
no one's doing anything. I mean, the fact that last week the shining hope was like, oh, maybe Hezbollah is going to get involved. It's fucking crazy.
Right.
And then it turns out, you're watching Hezbollah like earlier this week. They're like, hey, Israel, don't fuck with Lebanon. And it's like, oh, everyone's just going to give up on Gaza, even these countries in the Middle East. It seems like. It seems like they're where Hezbollah, we were somehow rooting for them last week. It's now even they're just like, okay, just don't come to Lebanon. And it's like, well, then who's going to save them? And it's nobody? Is that the case? Nobody?
Yeah. I listened to there's an interview on the Real News Network with Chris Hedges.
Well, my mom told me that I should go to Gaza and help if I want. My stupid slob mother.
Do
you see Giannis Pappas? Well, actually, let me say this Chris Hedges thing first.
Sure.
Chris Hedges, he was interviewed on the Real News Network. It just came out today or yesterday, but I've never heard that man so defeated in my life. It was like a 25-minute radio interview, and just the entire time he's like, yes, it seems the situation is quite dire. He's just like, and he's a very smart guy, but he was a New York Times, I forget if he was the Middle East bureau chief or a foreign bureau chief, but he's been in a ton of war zones. Like, he was in Sarajevo during the siege. He's been in Beirut, et cetera, et cetera. He wrote a book called War is a Force That Gives Us Meaning, and it's mostly just about his experience as a war correspondent and like the PTSD and all the shit he deals with of just being a reporter and who goes to these war zones. And he's like, Gaza is unimaginably worse than what I went through in Sarajevo, and I don't want to trivialize Sarajevo because 30 years later I still have nightmares about what happened to me in Sarajevo. And Gaza is unimaginably worse, just the amount of bombs they're dropping on it. And he just sounded so defeated because he's a very pessimistic view where he doesn't think Hezbollah is going to get involved, and he's, even if Hezbollah gets involved, like, things could spiral. It could become World War III very quickly. But if Hezbollah doesn't get involved, he's like, yeah, Israel will militarily probably cut Gaza in half. They'll probably just annex the north half and then force all the remaining survivors into the south half. And he basically believes Israel will probably get away with it, which is, I don't know. It's a very grim forecast, and it could very well come true. But it's I can see why it bums you out to watch 30 days of the most evil shit I've seen in my life, and know that there's a reasonably good chance that the villains here will get away with it.
And know that nobody got raped and they were lying about it.
Yeah, or the baby in the oven.
Yeah, right, the baby in the oven. And then that happened in 1948, right? Israeli militia cornered this baker and his son, and they tried to make the father put his son in the oven. And when he refused, they threw the son in the oven and threw the father in.
Yeah, they're monsters.
It's always, yeah.
Well,
I wish we had some more jokes for you guys. I don't know. It's hard to like. It's just weird. I wish I had like a job or something to go to, because I wake up in the morning and I'm like, what? I'm going to try to write comedy, but then it's hard to think about anything else.
You see that like Israeli sketch show? Where
Yeah.
We should try to get a job for that.
Maybe we should get a job writing for that. But I thought what we could do with this episode was maybe, people always say, oh, you don't, people like Giannis Pappas, they know the history of the region. So I think that what we should do is we should look into some of the history, because it's important.
I think everyone in the liberal media who told comedians they were philosophers should be arrested.
Yeah.
They should be fucking swinging from a rope at the Hague for making Giannis Pappas think he should be weighing in on world events and international politics.
I just don't understand what he's doing. He's been like flapping his gums about it for the past month, but he doesn't really have any moral arguments or come to any conclusions. It's just like. And also, somebody tweeted us they were pissed about the show because we didn't mention the Ottoman Empire in any of our episodes. Because 200 years ago it was actually part of the Ottoman Empire.
That's right. Yes,
Palestine. Because some people just have really big brains, and they need to hear about the Ottoman Empire. It's just interesting the way he's kind of going off.
Maybe that's a Greek thing, right? You got to go far back.
You think?
For Greeks to matter, you got to go far back. So why not bring everything back?
Yeah.
Giannis Pappas said this tweet today. It's if you had a 5-star stay in a hotel in either Tehran or Tel Aviv, where would you go? Women only.
Right.
And he had to do the women only thing because it's like, no, I'm not going to Tel Aviv because
he had to do women only because he knows that they're not going to respond because they don't care about this stuff. Gaza's for the boys. Just kidding.
Yeah, I'm not going to Tel Aviv because my tourist plans doesn't involve getting fucking gang banged by 20 guys in a fucking nightclub in Tel Aviv.
But even that's just like a talking point. Like they go like, oh, where would you rather go to Gaza or Tel Aviv? Would you rather go to the concentration camp or would you rather go to,
one of the most ancient cultures on earth?
Yeah.
You know, like a priceless jewel of civilization.
Right. Would you rather get frozen yogurt? Would you rather go to Tehran or get frozen yogurt?
Would you rather take poppers and have down low gay sex with Cory Booker, who was in Tel Aviv when the terror attack started?
Yeah, of course.
And had the funniest fucking like Twitter video because the Senate was in recess, and he just happened to be in Tel Aviv. And made some video about I was here when the attack took place. No explanation for why, and we know why because Cory Booker, which is like you feel bad for the guy because you finally you work hard as a senator or whatever.
Right.
You finally get a vacation.
Yeah.
You're like, I'm going to Tel Aviv.
Yeah.
I got the poppers.
Right.
I checked into my Airbnb. Maybe started sniffing a little poppers. Got really excited to get like fucking.
Right.
Cummed on by 20 guys.
I'm going to get ice cream with Fruity Pebbles on it. Did you see that tweet he tweeted a couple days ago?
And then all of a sudden the fucking Hamas attack comes through.
Yeah.
And you're like, vacation over.
Yeah.
I think Tarantino was there too, right?
Was he?
Well, Tarantino's wife is from Israel. She's like a famous pop star or some shit.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I wish
yeah,
Johnny was here to
Tarantino.
look that up, but she's like famous in Israel.
Oh, okay.
And so like he splits his time.
Does he?
Between there and Israel.
Oh, really?
And I don't think he's Jewish. I don't think Tarantino's Jewish.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, he like lives in Israel half the time.
Okay.
I think.
Yeah. Nice. It's just a shame because if you go anywhere where there's a beach and you have a good time, you're going to feel a connection to that place.
Yeah.
Damn.
What, like Tel Aviv? Or?
Yeah, like Tel Aviv.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it used to be the city of Jaffa, and Jaffa is an ancient city, but now it's part of Tel Aviv.
Okay.
They just kind of, annexed it or whatever.
Right.
So it's like, of course, there is lots of culture in Israel, but it's a really awful state that I would never want to give any money to.
Yeah. Did you see Cory Booker tweeted? He was like, "I miss Obama and I miss her husband too." Like you're such a mo.
You saw that video of him getting
offense.
heckled, right?
Yeah, that was
It's
pretty
pretty
cool.
funny,
Yeah.
Everybody's getting heckled.
which is good.
Yeah, it's great.
I don't know. I mean, because I actually, like, my little bit of doing something is I took a bus down to D.C., and I was in D.C. for Saturday. They had a protest. Over 250,000 people. It was, like, the biggest anti-war protest we've had since Iraq, which is, like, good. Like, the U.S. public, I don't think most people in this country are malicious. I think they're just indifferent to foreign policy. And it's good that you can get that many people out for something that, like, doesn't seem to be directly in U.S. interests or the interests of the people who live in this country. They recognize it as a moral wrong. They recognize that our tax dollars are paying for this. So it's good that you get all these people out, but at the same time, it's like, just brings you back to that frustration of the Iraq War, where there were the largest demonstrations in human history against the Iraq War, added up to exactly nothing. They just ignore you and move on.
Yeah.
And, if there's more civil disobedience, I think that would help. Some people have been going to weapons manufacturers or, like, trying to block the ports.
Well, you're saying any grocery store that doesn't speak out is complicit in this genocide, and therefore you should steal from them. Is that what you're saying?
Exactly what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Dude, Genocide Joe is sticking, though, I think.
You think?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a nickname. Yeah, I think he is going to lose the election because some people aren't going to be able to vote for Genocide Joe.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's happening.
It is great if this is what brings Trump back.
Yeah.
Hilarious.
Yeah.
But his take is also very cruel.
It's pretty cruel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that first week, remember?
Sorry we're so bummed out,
Yeah, I
everybody.
know.
I'm
Remember that
sorry
first week? He was like, what was he saying? He was calling people like some group smart, and you were like, oh,
Yeah,
okay, so we don't know what his take is
Hamas
yet.
was so smart,
Yeah,
folks.
we didn't know what
they
his take
planned
was,
this
and then-
so meticulously. And it was great because he
He's
hates
such a
Benjamin
boner.
Netanyahu
Right,
too.
right.
But of course, those fucking Israel lobby freaks. Like, and that's the incredible thing, is the power of the Israel lobby. They are the only people who can make Donald Trump back down and apologize. He won't do it for anybody except for the Israel freaks.
Did he do that?
Well, he never apologized, but he was privately telling his aides, this is an article in Rolling Stone, that he was debating publicly calling for Benjamin Netanyahu to resign. And he, like, talked, he's called Netanyahu stupid and all sorts of things in these speeches. And this entirely goes back to when he was saying Biden stole the election from him. He would have, Netanyahu, the Israeli prime minister, on the phone and try to goad him into being like, so this election was stolen, right? And he would just be like, we are looking forward to a positive relationship. He would ignore it. And so Trump just got, like, so pissed and has a permanent vendetta against Netanyahu, which in this case would be great.
Yeah.
But essentially he, like, the Israel lobby people talked to him and said, hey, check out your fourth quarter fundraising numbers. And he sends out on his little Truth Social some things about #stand with Netanyahu, stand with Israel. So he just kind of backed down from any criticism of Netanyahu because the Israel lobby is, like, the most powerful foreign lobby in the United States. Certainly, they're so powerful as a foreign lobby they don't even have to register. There's a law. FARA, I think it's Foreign Agent Registration Act, dates back to the before World War II. There were lots of Nazis in the U.S. advocating on behalf of the Nazi government. So the U.S. passed a law that says if you are an agent of a foreign government, you have to register as a foreign agent. Like, hey, I'm taking money from Turkey or whatever. I'm lobbying for Turkey, and it's fine as long as you register. And so, like, especially since Trump, a fair number of people have been getting, like, arrested for, taking money from a foreign government to lobby for them without ever registering as a foreign agent or disclosing that fact. And it just so happens AIPAC, the most powerful pro-Israel lobby group in the United States. They've never had to register as a foreign lobbying organization, even though, just so happens, both of the Kennedys wanted them to. Look what happened to them. They've never had to register as a foreign lobbying organization. The ADL, the Anti-Defamation League, which is supposedly concerned with anti-Semitism, they are an Israel lobbying group. You know, they say they've actually just amended their little online hate speech chart to say that from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free, is a call to genocide against Jews. It's not. This is completely ridiculous. But the ADL is an Israel lobbying group. So the fact that ADL and AIPAC don't have to register as foreign lobbying organizations just shows that they are the most powerful foreign lobbying organizations in the United States. And, you know, nothing better illustrates their power than the fact that they're the only force on earth that can make Donald Trump apologize.
Yeah. Yeah, it feels bad, but also it's like, doesn't it feel like they're unraveling a little bit? Like I saw a thing today. This Mint Press News said that Israel admits that most of the casualties on October 7th were military.
Well, they posted all the names, right?
Yeah, but then people are arguing back and forth about that as to like how many of those names are military, how many aren't. I mean, my instinct is a majority or near majority are military, but I haven't seen a non-biased source kind of break down all 1,400 casualties.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. But I mean, it's like, yeah, they've lost the next generation. Israel has.
Yeah.
But they can hold on. You know, the boomers will be here for at least another decade. So they can hold on. But if there's wide-scale civil disobedience, non-cooperation, that's the kind of thing that can move the chains in the U.S. That's the kind of thing that like slowly unwound the Vietnam War. But it's asking a lot of people, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, I spent my Saturday on a bus to D.C.
Yeah.
It's annoying to take a day out, and then you remember all the dead kids, and you're like, why am I bitching?
Right.
But, you know, at the same time, it's hard to keep people motivated.
Well, eventually it's like you got to get back to work.
Yeah.
You got to get back to paying for your little box and your groceries. Not
You
groceries,
do like a
but
workers' strike, which isn't going to happen, but
yeah.
Right.
to just be like, our money isn't going to this.
Yeah.
Right. You make your podcast worse.
Yeah, dude.
In solidarity with the people of Gaza.
Right.
We're taking the Gaza diet. We're not eating before we do the podcast.
Yeah.
For
dude.
24 hours. So
one
I'm not
piece
watching
of
any
bread.
crowd work clips because they don't get to.
there was a German general when the Germans were encircled at Stalingrad by the Russians. They were, of course, you know, on starvation rations. So there was a German general, like one of these like Prussian field marshals, who who would go to meetings with Hitler and all that. He insisted on eating the same diet as the soldiers who were starving in Stalingrad. And within like a week or 2 weeks, he just started losing so much weight. They ordered him to like go back to a normal diet. But yeah, it's the kind of thing that happens.
Why did he start eating the diet of the...
Oh, because he's like one of those like old Prussian soldiers. Like he was a general, but like one of those soldiers who has this idea, and you know, you have to respect it on some level, that a leader shouldn't ask his troops to do anything he is not willing to do.
Right.
So he was like, if the soldiers at Stalingrad are fighting on this diet, then I can, you know, do the same.
Yeah.
But, you know, then he lost a bunch of weight. And, you know, it's just, I don't know. Maybe I'll do a hunger strike in solidarity with Gaza.
Nice.
Dude,
Maybe
that'd
I'll
be
just,
so sick.
dude,
just
it's like
fix your guts.
I get to be anorexic and everybody praises me for it.
Yeah.
Instead of just me normally being anorexic and people making fun of me and
Well, that's how you get the white women on board.
calling me a school shooter.
Yeah. Do you know anything about the Oslo diary, the Oslo Accords?
Accords?
A little bit. There's
I know a little bit too.
Frontline on PBS. They just put up, or it's an old one, but they put up like a 3-hour documentary about this, which is, you know, it's on YouTube. It's pretty good, but like Oslo goes from 1993 up until it kind of ends in 2000 with what's called the Camp David Accords. But it's It starts with Yitzhak Rabin, the Israeli prime minister, and Ariel Sharon on the Palestinian side. And the idea was that Palestine would, of course, eventually get their own state in the Gaza and the West Bank, which is, again, less than what they were originally given, just under half the country by 1947 when the UN partitioned it. But it's like, okay, we beat them down enough. We'll give them like a rump state. And the Palestinians, or at least Yasser Arafat, they had fought long enough that they wanted peace. And I think peace probably could have happened there, but the Israeli Zionist project is so psychotic.
Yeah.
So, like Yitzhak Rabin imposed like a really tough deal on the Palestinians after stealing all their land. You said you get to keep less than 20% of the country that we stole from you. Mm-hmm. And then the Israelis shot him because they thought he was being too generous.
He was being too nice. He was assassinated, right?
Exactly.
Yeah,
He was assassinated. And, that's what Benjamin Netanyahu ran against Yitzhak Rabin. And he would, like, go to these rallies where Netanyahu's supporters would, like, burn effigies of Rabin dressed up like a Nazi.
Yeah.
Like, this is how psychotic Israeli politics are.
Yeah.
They thought this guy was a Nazi for essentially, stealing somebody's country and saying, hey, you can have 20% of it.
Right.
And with all sorts of conditions, like Palestinians wouldn't have been able to have their own army, like the Israelis would still totally control security. And they also wanted to like bisect the West Bank. It's not like the Palestinians would have just got the whole West Bank. Israel would have like bisected it in at least 3 different sections and, kind of maintained all this control over resources, had all the military control. It was a deal that the Palestinians could not have agreed to. But I do know this from reading the book, The Israel Lobby. Negotiations were ongoing up until the end of Bill Clinton's presidency, January 2001. So 1993 is the Oslo Accords, and then there's implementations. And basically from the time Yitzhak Rabin is assassinated and Netanyahu gets elected in Israel, the Israelis were building illegal settlements, which was the big thing that they were supposed to immediately stop doing under the Oslo Accords in 1993. So they just like kept building settlements while pretending that they were that they were following their obligations under the Oslo Accords. They were breaking them. They were building illegal settlements. But Ehud Barak gets elected in Israel, and he tries to kind of restart the peace process. And he's to date the only Israeli prime minister to ever offer the Palestinians a state, as opposed to like an autonomous region or whatever, semi-autonomous region or what. He said, you can have an actual state. You can have a nation, which, Benjamin Netanyahu and that right of Israeli politics, their whole political project is we will never accept a Palestinian nation. Mm-hmm. So Ehud Barak, to his credit, and he's an Epstein pedophile, of course, but to his credit, he is the only Israeli prime minister who's ever offered an actual nation state to the Palestinians. However, it was full of all sorts of conditions that I mentioned. You cannot have an army, you not have any military. We're going to bisect the West Bank in a bunch of different areas. You're basically still going to be under our control. It was full of a bunch of kind of poison pills that Yasser Arafat couldn't accept, and he said as much to Bill Clinton, something to the effect of like, if I sign this deal, you'll be attending my funeral because my own people will kill me. But Ehud Barak and Arafat do restart talks. They do keep talking. And this goes up until January 2001. So the Clinton presidency ends, on Inauguration Day, January 20th, 2001, so, late January. So all the way up until the end of Bill Clinton's presidency, the Israelis and the Palestinians are still talking. And they're proceeding on what are called the Clinton parameters, which is they had these negotiations at Camp David. And then the Palestinians rejected the Israelis' offer, but then Bill Clinton comes in and he comes up with the Clinton parameters, which are like, a bunch of different parameters for the continuation of discussions, and both parties are continuing on the Clinton parameters in January 2001 when Ehud Barak walks away from negotiations because he's running against Ariel Sharon, and the Israeli public is sick of, giving concessions to the Palestinians. So it's only useful in the sense that people lie about this all the time and say Palestinians had the opportunity for a state and they walked away. But no, the factual record says January 2001, both parties were continuing on the basis of the Clinton parameters, and Ehud Barak was the one who ended negotiations. And then in 2004, the Israelis assassinated Arafat, which sometimes called a conspiracy theory, but no, he was poisoned with polonium. Yeah, radioactive polonium. The Israelis have been trying to assassinate him for a really long time,
Right.
and he was poisoned by radioactive polonium, and he died. And it's just kind of fucked up where it's like, okay, you say Hamas has no interest in negotiation, no interest in peace. They want the destruction of Israel.
Right.
But, you gave a giant middle finger to the last guy who would try to negotiate with you, which is like you gave him a bunch of poison pills, you walked away from talks, and then you fucking killed the guy, and you still lie about it to this day. Like, again, listener, if you don't believe me, look this up. Yasser Arafat was poisoned with radioactive polonium by the Israelis. It was an assassination.
It was kind of funny when they had that thing with Clinton at the White House when they signed the treaty.
Handshake.
Yeah, Rabin like barely shakes his hand. Like he doesn't like Arafat's standing there like,
Yeah.
smiling, and he just kind of like shakes his hand really quick, and that's it.
Well, Rabin, he hated Palestinians too, but he recognized that this shit destroys. You can't be a democracy and do this shit, and that's exactly what we're seeing in Israel now. They just passed a law that says if you're like even viewing subversive media, you get a year in prison. So now cops in Israel are just checking people's phones, and if you're in like a Telegram group that's sympathetic to the Palestinians, hey, a year in prison. They're going to start revoking people's citizenships. I mean, this is like really Third Reich stuff that they're doing. It's completely incompatible with democracy.
Yeah.
And this is just what happens when you're, empires abroad, that violence always comes home. We've certainly seen it in the United States, though we're seeing it to a much more extreme extent in Israel right now, where even the pretenses of, they're racist, but they're still a democracy. Even the democracy part is going away in this wartime emergency. And Yitzhak Rabin, he hated the Palestinians, but he recognized as long as Israel is an occupying power, it was going to destroy the state, its democracy, and its future.
Yeah.
And, I think in the long run, Israel will destroy itself, but I don't know when we will see that justice, if it will come in our lifetimes.
You think maybe it'll be shorter than we think?
It could be. I mean, I think, It's tough, though, because it's like, if Hezbollah doesn't get involved, who stops them now?
Yeah.
The United States, I mean, it just sucks because these Biden people are like, we're going down with the ship. There's just too much Israeli money, too many fucking...
It's just like, they would probably get away with it if they could just, chill a little bit.
Right.
But it just doesn't make sense that they get to do whatever they want. Like they're acting like My Super Sweet 16. Remember that show on MTV? They're just acting like insane, and nobody. Remember that show when they would follow a really
I bought
rich
you
girl?
those weapons. Give me back the weapons if you're gonna use them.
Daddy, shut the fuck up!
Yeah, and it's like, it's my weapon, and you crash the weapons.
Yeah.
It's like,
and then it's like,
was really
who
expensive.
is this girl's cuck father that won't,
Yeah, we're giving
tell her to
Israel
chill.
bombs with bows on
Who
them. And they're
right.
going, I wanted a red bomb.
Yes.
Israel.
Yeah.
Something like that, right? That's what you're saying?
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. I mean, who the hell are we? We're supposed to be this superpower. We can't even be like, hey, chill with the white phosphorus. Then I saw a report today. They said they got 60 Hamas fighters.
Yes,
I mean,
Israel.
I don't know how.
It's insane because, again, the Gaza figures are like 10,000 dead.
Yeah.
Got 10,000 or more dead. And the Israeli figures are 20,000 dead. The Israel and they all counted as, quote, terrorists eliminated. Well, they think everybody in Gaza is a fucking terrorist.
Sure.
But yeah, it's like you were saying, Mike, they said that they'd killed 60 Hamas fighters. Out of 10,000 dead, it's like they're killing 99.9% civilians.
Yeah.
This is a monstrous crime. This is unimaginable.
Yeah.
And it's like, you know what? Honestly, I did kind of delude myself a little bit because you think we're more evolved.
Yeah.
We're a nicer species.
Like that doesn't happen anymore.
Exactly. We don't have this kind of like World War II barbarity in the 21st century. The international community will surely step in and stop it. And it's like, no, actually, in the 21st century, you can do a genocide, but you just have a whole lot of obfuscation and confusion where the Biden administration is embracing the strategy of like, we're just going to lie to people. We're going to say, we have made it clear to the Israelis that they need to follow international law. And then what they don't say is, well, they're not doing that and we're doing nothing about it. Or like Biden defenders say there's nothing he can do. But at the same time, he's secretly sending weapons.
Yeah.
We sent him $300 million worth of weapons. We just sent, another order for $300 million. And it's like the U.S. taxpayers pay for all this. Yeah. It's not like we're even selling Israel weapons. It's we're giving them weapons with the fucking money that you fucking pay on sales tax and income tax. And it's and the fact is, the U.S. law, the Leahy law, named for Senator Patrick Leahy from Vermont, he got this law passed which says the United States cannot provide weapons, training, material, whatever, to any force that is has reasonable information committed a gross violation of human rights. Cannot. It's the law. And all that has to happen is the Secretary of Defense has to find that this force, whatever it may be, committed a gross violation of human rights. Well, I think blowing apart 136 children every day counts.
Yeah.
No effort to distinguish between targets and non-combatants, which is a war crime. They are breaking the law to keep sending Israel weapons. So not only do they have the power to stop sending Israel weapons, they are breaking the law in order to keep sending Israel weapons, because this is where all the money is. This is where the whole U.S. consensus is just completely up in this fucking psychotic genocidal project of, ethnically cleansing Palestinians.
Yeah. We will see you guys over on the Patreon. That is the episode for today. I got the thing I got to do. But thanks for listening. See you over on Patreon. Bye-bye.